Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tracy Miller. I'm Vice President of the Louisville Independent School District. Very proud to represent Louisville and the Marcus Arena Center. This is a school that my kids went to. We're very proud of all of our schools, and glad that you're here with us in a facility that's really yours, the community's. Today we're going to introduce Dr. Burgess, and Bobby Mitchell's going to pray. Before I do, you know, Dr. Burgess is a guy that you can find at Target driving his hybrid, 10-year-old hybrid. I know that because I've seen him there many times. It's something I've always appreciated about his approachability and his access. I'm going to introduce some young folks this morning. Members this morning's color guard are from the AFJ ROTC units Texas 881, Marcus High School, and Texas 20011, Flower Mound High School. They are Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Robert Atkinson, Cadet First Lieutenant Peter Campanile, Sergeant Ashley Keller, Cadet Master Sergeant Carly Grell, leading the audience in this Pledge of Allegiance is Cadet Master Chief Christopher Huber from Marcus AFJ ROTC program. The two programs are led by Lieutenant Colonel David Hanson, Texas 20011 Flower Mound, and Major Andres Seuss, Texas 881 Marcus High School.
Feel free to follow along. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to introduce our beloved Commissioner, Bobby Mitchell, my friend, and be ready to be sanctified this morning.
Good morning. You may be seated for a moment. I'm honored to be here this morning. Glad to see so many of our citizens. Thank you for attending. For those who are visiting Denton County today and those who stay in Denton County, we welcome you. Having served as an elected official for many years, I understand the firsthand importance and difficulty of the decisions we make as elected officials. In fact, when Dr. Burgess first contacted me and told me that he was going to run for Congress, I asked him, had he lost his mind? I had gone through a very difficult campaign, and so I thought he had lost his mind. Here he was, a practicing OBGYN that did a great job in here in Denton County, and here he was wanting to go out into the war and politics. But he didn't listen to me. He decided he was going to do that anyway. Dr. Burgess delivered, and I say Dr. Burgess, I'm sorry, Congressman Burgess, delivered my first granddaughter. And surely if I can trust him with delivering my first granddaughter. And he was supposed to deliver the second one, my grandson, but he wasn't there. So I call in my bets on him every time I get a chance because he wasn't there. Most of you, like me, watch the news and read the papers, and I've seen the questions and controversy about health care. Health care is a common himself into. I don't know of anyone that I would trust to do that in guiding my legislative issues than the man I've known for over 30 years. Some of you have never had the opportunity to know him as a doctor, but you know him as a legislator. And as a Denton County Commissioner, I have been working alongside with him and all the other TxDOT and all the cities and towns to make sure that we have the available infrastructure that we need here in Denton County, as we have more than 80 people coming into our county weekly. Sometimes we don't measure up, guys, but it's our responsibility to respectfully and professionally bring that to the attention to those who are responsible, and I do just that. Today, I'd like to ask you to join with me in listening to our town hall meeting, and of course, you have a chance to ask questions. So I know that I can depend on you to offer some great insights, and I continue to make it a priority for me to listen to your ideas and thoughts, and Congressman Burgess has done the same thing. I know not every one of us have the same perspective and opinion, and when differences are combined with passion, being respectful is always a good response. Congressman Burgess always asks me to open his event with a prayer. He knows my faith has been a foundation for my public service. So would you please join me with bowed heads, recognizing that the different beliefs are present, but all of us like blessings. So please allow me to offer a blessing to the rest of us. Would you stand if you want to? Just bow your head. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for this day. Lord, I give you glory and honor and praises because you're worthy to be praised. Thank you, Lord, today for the ones that are here today. Lord, we pray for wisdom and guidance as we go through this town hall meeting, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to gather here, Lord. Thank you, Lord, that we're here to engage in meaningful discussion, Lord. We give you glory, Lord, and honor and praises because you're worthy to be praised. Lord, we lift you up and we magnify your name because there is none like you, Lord. We ask that we discuss the matters at hand, Lord, in a reasonable way, Lord. But we also be reminded, Lord, to keep you at the forefront because there is none like you, Lord. Lord, you are burden bearer and you are leaning close. We're leaning and depending on you today. No other help we know. Thank you for all that you do, Lord. We ask for your grace, Lord, as we discuss issues that affect our community. Continue, Lord, to remind us, Lord, for all that we do here today, Lord, that we do it according to your will. Let your will be done, Lord, in our lives, Lord. While we may be of diverse opinion, Lord, teach us to mend our differences, Lord, and reach agreement, Lord, satisfactory to all, Lord. Grant us humility, Lord, always seeking your will, Lord, in all that we do, Lord. Thank you for being a good, kind, loving God, for looking beyond our faults and seeing our needs one day, Lord. We lift you up, Lord, and we magnify your name. Guide our hearts, Lord, as we go through this meeting, Lord. Thank you for being the source of our strength today, Lord Jesus. We give you the glory, Lord. I ask blessing for each and every person that's here today, Lord. Bless their families, Lord. Build them up if they're torn down, Lord. Strengthen them where they're weak, Lord. There was a time we need you in this country, Lord. That time is now. Let your hand of protection, Lord, be on each and every one of us, Lord. We thank you and we give you glory and honor and praises, Lord. We pray that this meeting, Lord, will be successful, productive, and according to your will. In Jesus' name. Thank God. Thank God. Amen. Thank you, Lord Jesus. And thank you, my citizens, for being here. At this time, I'm going to introduce my Congressman Michael Burgess, a friend to me and to anyone who will accept it. The Bible says, to have a friend, you have to first show yourself friendly. And so this morning, we're going to show ourselves friendly, and we're going to get into the meat of this town hall meeting, and you're going to be able to ask questions. If not, we're going to take it back, and we're going to answer those questions for you. Join with me in welcoming Dr. Michael Burgess.
Okay, that was pretty rousing, so thank you and have a good day. We'll see you next time. We're going to set up, and the purpose of this meeting is not for you to listen to me, but for me to listen to you. So we're going to set up a microphone and we'll let people line up just while that is underway. I do want to, obviously I want to thank Mr. Miller. Thank you for your kind introduction. Bobby Mitchell, what can I say? And to tell you how good Bobby is, what a good heart she has, I actually moved out of her commissioner precinct, and she didn't abandon me after she pointed out that I abandoned her. So I lost a commissioner. It sounds like carelessness, I know, but she still follows me around, and that's great. Bobby, thank you. I can't thank you enough for being here today. Certainly I want to thank the Marcus High School Color Guard for being here and helping us kick this thing off. And Gary Sheffield, the principal of the high school, thank you for opening up your facility. I will confess to you, I didn't know that this facility was here. I mean, I drive by on Morris Road. It's kind of tucked up here in the back, but it is, it's a beautiful facility. And congratulations to Flower Mound. Congratulations to Flower Mound Marcus High School for having such a nice facility. The object was to have a place that was large enough where we could all gather, because I knew there'd be a lot of interest. And again, I can talk about almost any subject that's of interest to you today. If I don't have an answer for your question, if you're willing to leave contact information with us, we will get it back to you. So let us just start it off, and we have the first person in line. And Eric, are we squared up there? Good, please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Burgess. My name is Debbie Donser, zip code 76226. I'm also a proud Democratic precinct judge for 4017. Give me the liberty to give you a quick history prior to my question. My husband passed away at the age of 30 from a congenital channelopathy when our daughter was 1. I went on to UNT, graduating cum laude as a single mom and working as a paramedic. I now have a career as a consultant, performing quality assurance within emergency medicine education. Our daughter is now 18 and about to head off to college to pursue her own ambitious goals. As you are aware, as a contractor, and not due to wanting a handout, the ACA has given us the extraordinary opportunity to begin the procedure for implantation of an ICD for her prior to going to school, since she has been diagnosed with long QT as well. So when I read your ominous comments from CPAC a few weeks ago when you stated, so if the numbers of insured people drop, I would say that's a good thing, because we restored personal liberty in this country. If your new utopia materializes, what should I do with my newfound personal liberty so my daughter can continue to have medical monitoring in order to avoid burying her beside her father?
Thank you for being here, and obviously, Paul, sorry for your loss. From the standpoint of the Affordable Care Act, I do believe the individual mandate or more coercive aspects of the Affordable Care Act is the reason it has never achieved widespread popularity. When people ask me what I would do, and I've been pretty straightforward about this for a number of years. When people have asked me what I would do, and I've been pretty straightforward about this for a number of years, I've said I would eliminate the individual mandate. I don't think it has a place in a free society. But that doesn't mean that it's not fair. There are other things that can happen, and there are other things that I think should be done. You generally don't use the words interesting or exciting and health policy together in a sentence, but I will. The day before Inauguration Day, there were, I think, 19 or 20 governors in town who met with roundtables both on the Senate side and the House side. I've never seen so much enthusiasm as I saw from the groups of governors in this, both Republican and Democrat, who want to fix the problems in healthcare. We can talk about whether we repeal the ACA or save the ACA. I would like for healthcare to work for more people in this country, and I would like it to not bankrupt us in the process. But again, since we're on the subject, let's just talk for a minute about what's on the road straight ahead. And I had told myself I wasn't going to be long in my answers because I do see there are a lot of people who want to ask questions. I will do this one time and then refer back to it. There will be, under Senate rules that are called reconciliation rules, there will be a bill that is on the floor, or I'm sorry, in committees in the House. It hasn't been noticed yet, but it's probably going to happen next week. The reconciliation bill, no surprise to anyone because the House and the Senate both passed a reconciliation bill in December of 2015. It went to President Obama's desk, he vetoed it. There were not the votes in the Senate to override the veto, so the veto was sustained. And that was the end of reconciliation for 2015-2016. But now we're in 2017. And a reconciliation bill will likely be before the committees, very similar to the reconciliation bill that was there in December of 2015. So it's no surprise to anyone, and yes, it is a bill that I voted for in the past. It is important to note what's in the reconciliation bill. So relief of the penalties for the mandates, the individual mandate and the employer mandate. There will be some restructuring of the taxes that were passed as part of the Affordable Care Act. There will be additional money put into community health centers. The Public Health and Prevention Fund will likely be diminished, and there will be some relief under current law, under the Affordable Care Act, under current law, states receiving what are called disproportionate share funds, DISH funds, to hospitals that help hospitals make up the difference for patients who are uninsured. Those funds are scheduled to be cut at the end of this fiscal year, so those funds will be replaced under the reconciliation bill. That was in the language last year. I expect it to be in the language this year. So what's not in there? What's not in there are a lot of the insurance reforms that were included in the Affordable Care Act actually can't be included in reconciliation. We can deal with taxes, we can deal with spending, but you really can't get into the policy in the reconciliation. So people tell me, well, kids on their parents' insurance at age 26, that's good policy, I want you to keep that. It was not part of the reconciliation bill 2015. Doubt very seriously it would be part of the reconciliation bill this year. Kids on their parents' insurance to age 26. Removal of that was not in the reconciliation bill last year. It is unlikely it will be in the reconciliation bill this year. So kids who are on their parents' insurance till age 26, which was a Republican bill back in 2007, I want to remind people, that doesn't change. That doesn't change under the reconciliation. Neither does the prohibition pre-existing conditions, which gets to some of the concerns that this individual was talking about. It was not in the last reconciliation bill. It will not be in the next reconciliation bill, most likely. I don't understand what you're doing here. If you want people petition to be thrown on the record. It will not be, the removal of that provision will not be in the record. It wasn't in the last reconciliation bill. It likely won't be in this reconciliation bill. Same with the ban on lifetime limits. Same with the preventive health care coverage. Same with the gender rating. Did not change last year under reconciliation, not likely to change this year under reconciliation. What will change, the mandates, the taxes, additional money for community health centers, and help for hospitals who are undergoing disproportionate share cuts. So that's the sum total of right now what's in the reconciliation bill on the energy and commerce side. There are going to be some tax provisions, those are the moving parts, and that's what we'll likely see in committee, I think, next week, though it hasn't been officially noticed yet.
Louder, please. Louder if you can.
Louder? Can we pump it up? So that's likely what will be in the reconciliation bill next week. Although it has not been noticed yet, my expectation is we will see it. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Dr. Robin Dobson. I went to medical school at the University of Missouri, came to Texas for the rest of my training. And I have one comment to make about the individual mandate before I get to my question, which is, Dr. Burgess, you and I both know that people don't expect to have a catastrophic illness. And the point of the individual mandate is that people need insurance in case they have that catastrophic illness that they're not expecting. So if they don't, have that coverage, either the hospital or the taxpayers end up picking up the tab for that very expensive emergency coverage. So my question has to do with block grants. As you may know, Texas recently switched to a block grant system for the disabled children in Texas called the Star Kids program. And that has been a disaster according to reporting that was on the front page of last week's Dallas Morning News. Children have been denied coverage for life-saving medications. One 9-year-old autistic boy, Quentin Pratt, had to wait 18 hours without food or drink because a surgery that had been pre-approved was suddenly not approved when he and his mother arrived at the hospital after a 4-hour drive. So, Congressman Burgess, I would like to hear your commitment that you will not vote for block grants for Medicaid and for Medicare, and also no per capita caps, because this has not been working out for Texas for the Star Kids. They've had over 730 complaints in the first 3 months of that initiation. Yes, it saves money for the federal government, but these companies that are administering the programs ultimately are trying to cut costs so that they can keep this block of money for themselves. So the providers, the doctors aren't getting paid, and the patients are not getting the coverage they need.
So the decision to go with a block grant in that program that you mentioned would entirely a state decision. If it is not working, they have the ability to adjust that, and I suspect, reading the same article that you did last weekend, I suspect that even now that those adjustments are being made. So that is, to me, more important that things be administered more locally, because it's hard to get through to the people at the Department of Health and Human Services. You have your ability to get through to your state folks is probably more realistic. But setting that aside, to answer your question, I have reached out to the state reps and state senators in this area. I've talked to them about block grant, per beneficiary allotment, some of the other managed care suggestions that are out there. The reality is I want to be for what they're for, and that is how I've presented it to my state reps and state senators with whom I co-locate. Block granting has been part of the Republican Party platform for as long as I can remember. Before I was politically active, my ask to my state reps was, we've had this in there for a long time. This is the year you could get it. So be very certain of what you're asking for. And we even provided some data to them about what the actual the numbers would look like. So I'm working with my counterparts at the state level. As you know, Texas is on a 2-year schedule as far as its state legislature, so things are not going to happen rapidly, but at the same, and I want them to have the ability to, whatever changes are made, happen over a sufficient period of time that people are able to adjust to them. But the answer to your question, will I oppose block grants? No, I will not. I do bear this in mind as far as the Medicaid expenditures go, and not saying that it's not a worthwhile expenditure, but it is $580 billion right now. It will be $1 trillion just on the federal side in less than 10 years' time. Our entire discretionary budget right now is $1 trillion. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed. Now, the military has been cut, and that's obviously another part of the discussion we can have.
My name is Sally Ortega Haynes.
Please, let's let her talk.
I'm a resident of Highland Village for the last 30 years. 75077 is my zip code. I'm also a human resource professional. With regards to the individual mandate, you know, in Texas, we're all required to have car insurance. And if you don't, you get penalized. As a human resource professional, in that when I negotiate with health insurance companies, we're told that the more people that are in it drives the costs down. Same is true for healthcare, which is why we need the individual mandate to make sure that we drive those healthcare costs down. My concern with your aggressive actions to try to repeal and replace this is your own campaign financing. You know, you raised $1.1 million from 2015 to 2016, and half of that was funded by healthcare providers, healthcare insurers. How can we be assured that you're going to be working for our best interests and not for those that are funding your campaign?
Okay, you've asked two questions, or made two statements, and I would like to respond to both of those. I'll do so briefly again, trying to be respectful of all of the people who were lined up. The first on the individual mandate. It'd be great if it was working, wouldn't it? But it ain't. $20 million people who should have signed up for the Affordable Care Act under the aegis of the individual mandate haven't done it. I think it's 19.7 million people. Why haven't they signed up? They've said, I'll take the penalty, I don't want your insurance, or they've gone to the Department of Health and Human Services and said, I need a hardship waiver. The issue of states doing, we all have car insurance, I hope. If a state wants to have a mandate, that's an entirely different situation than the federal government placing a mandate. And as a consequence of the federal government placing the individual mandate on us through the Affordable Care Act, which I thought was unconstitutional, and I thought the Supreme Court would rule against, as a consequence of that happening, now the federal government, of course, regulates it under the Commerce Clause. So it doesn't make any sense that they can impose something and then say, oh, it's constitutional because we're regulating it under the Commerce Clause. On the issue of the campaign finance, it is true. Well, first off, it is true that I am not a very prolific fundraiser. Most of the other folks who serve with me don't think I pull my fair share, but the people who support me do so. I mean, I take the Ronald Reagan approach. They don't support me expecting me to support them. They support me because they believe in what I believe. And no, we don't always agree. I have folks in my office all the time who say, we really need you to be for this. And I'm saying, I'm sorry, I can't be with you. Let's go ahead, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. My name is Eric Phillips. I'm a marketing
Good morning,
director
Eric.
from Denton. Good morning, sir. My name is Eric Phillips. I'm a marketing rep from Denton. I have a few questions to ask you in regards to Donald Trump when it comes to honesty, sir. The New York Times reporter Paul Krugman wrote an article the other day entitled "Goodbye Spin, Hello Raw Dishonesty." In this report, he highlights many false assertions made by Donald Trump in recent weeks and months, including his assertion, "I haven't called Russia in 10 years," despite having hosted the Miss Universe competition in Moscow just 3 years ago. He also noted Mr. Trump's contradiction to when he said just last year, "I know Russia very well." He has called the president the most dishonest man ever hold high office in America.
Please let the gentleman address his question.
My question to you, sir, specifically, is there any instance since Donald Trump began running for president and eventually became president, do you have the courage today, sir, to call the president of the United States a liar in regards to any public statement that he's made?
No. In general, I have not found it useful to attach that appellation. You may recall a member of Congress received a great deal of criticism when he did that in the previous administration. So, as a general rule, if I notice a propensity for prevarication, I will note it, and if there's something I need to do about it, I shall. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Congressman Burgess. My name is Katie Evans.
Hi, Katie.
From Sanger, Texas. Sorry. My question is twofold. Your policies on education reform and school choice have been known as early as 2011. As you well know, in Texas, according to several reports and studies, until 2012, we had the worst recorded record on uninsured children, adults, and the disabled population. 23% of the population without insurance, making us the lowest in the nation. Age 65 and older, the third lowest. The rising Medicaid and CHIP enrollees are directly correlated with the legislature provided by the previous administration, allowing for grants for states that properly insure and participate in entitlement funding. This allows states like Texas benefit for assisting our most vulnerable, our children. What will you do to assist in federal funding and federal guidelines to ensure that our children continue to be given the opportunity for medical care?
Are you familiar with the program called the Children's Health Insurance Program, the S-CHIP or CHIP?
Yes, CHIP. Yes, CHIP, I mentioned it.
Do you know who was responsible for getting the funding for that when it ran out in August of 2015 for an additional 2 years?
I read your legislature, yes. Your co-sponsored bills.
No, it was my bill.
Okay.
It was my bill.
Your bill, no. Your bill, I'm sorry, Congressman Burgess, your bill, which I have a copy of.
It was HR2. HR2 was the funding for the State Children's Health Insurance Program starting at the end of fiscal year 2015. If you'll recall, when the Affordable Care Act was passed, they said we won't need funding for Children's Health Insurance Program any longer. This was when the President signed the bill in 2010. They authorized the program to 2019. They funded it to the end of 2015. Whose bill was it that provided an additional 2 years of funding for the State Children's Health Insurance Program? It was HR2. That was my bill.
No, I'm sorry. You're incorrect. In fact, I have a...
I went to the signing ceremony.
Let her speak!
No, the legislature passed in 2015 regarding CHIP. Are you confusing the legislature that you signed or sponsored regarding first or schools and I'm sorry, I'm nervous because I'm frustrated now, regarding children and Head Start programs and the extra additional 2-year funding that was proposed against Texas that you called unconstitutional by Speaker Pelosi at the time? Because that was prior to 2015.
If you're talking about the funding for the school clinics that was included in the Affordable Care Act, I thought it was misguided to put money into building school clinics and not to provide money for staffing school clinics. One was a mandatory appropriation, the other was discretionary. I thought that was backwards.
But the 2015 legislature did not assist Texas. Yeah. Texas bills and Medicaid expansion did not. The only thing that assisted Texas was the federal funding that was proposed, and we would have been not receiving funding. We would have been penalized if we did not follow. That is the allocated expenditures that have not been discussed, that you have called forces upon our liberty in 2015, that did not allow for the allocations in the bills since then. So we would have been punished.
I think there's some confusion about bills that were taken up in the state legislature versus the Congress. I do stand by the statement that H.R. 2, which had funding for the state children's health insurance program, was the bill that I had my name on it. I was the lead sponsor. It was signed by President Obama. A lot of my folks on the right were not happy with me for doing that. In the entire country, 50 states plus the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the territories.
But will you be taking that away when you take away?
It expires. It expires at the end of September. Something will have to happen to continue it.
But
I don't know what that will look like.
For Medicaid, for CHIP, for block.
I wasn't against it. It was my bill.
You have time and time again stated that you are against all entitlement funding, going to block grants, going to charter schools, going to everything. So what will you do going forward if the ACA is repealed to make sure that those grants that are entitlement funds stay, to mandate the state of Texas, the state, which we have the worst record on, going forward if the ACA is repealed?
Well,
that's my question, not if we can excuse your record.
Medicaid expansion that was mandated in the Affordable Care Act by a court order was set aside for states that chose not to do so. It's a state decision, not my decision. I support it.
Will you work with policymakers? Will you work with John Cornyn?
That decision because I thought.
Will you work with our senators to make sure that we keep our states rising entitlement funding?
The issue facing the state right now is the loss of funding when S-CHIP expires in September, and also the disproportionate share funds, the Texas hospitals on which they depend. Those funds are also scheduled under the Affordable Care Act to be significantly diminished on October 1st. My hope is to replace those funds. So again, I think we're talking past each other a little bit on some of this stuff. Some has been state originated and state directed. S-CHIP, I guarantee you, that was H.R. 2, that was my bill. You can look it up online.
My name is Marcella Klein. I'm from Denton, Texas, and I would like to build on the questions about the Affordable Care Act and healthcare, and I would like to point out that the first question you did not answer. You just said it was not currently in the works. You did not commit. So as an OBGYN, I am sure you understand the importance of women's healthcare and preventive care. I am a mother. I just have a 5-month-old, and I'm thinking about trying to make sure I space my pregnancies out for my own healthcare as is best for my health. and I'm thinking about an IUD and thinking about my contraceptive options. These things are covered under the Affordable Care Act. Will you commit, not just saying that it's not currently on the box, but will you commit to protecting women's health care, specifically contraceptive coverage, in whatever replacement for the Affordable Care Act?
Again, that will not be part of the reconciliation bill.
Will you commit going forward to protect?
Look, I don't know what form it's going to take. Obviously, what's important to you is important to me as well, but we'll see what works out on that. What is immediately ahead of us is the reconciliation. It will not be part of that. And even if there were changes that occurred, because of the way insurance is bought and sold, the way the actuaries price policies, you can't do anything in under 2 years' time. So I think the answer to your question is, I'll look at it. But it will not be part of the reconciliation bill.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Burgess. I'm Mary Ann Lowry from Frisco, Texas. First of all, I want to thank you for offering us this opportunity to have a town hall. Really appreciate it. I live in a community, it's a 55 and over community in Frisco. We're a bunch of boomers. There is a lot, I'm going to go away from the healthcare a little bit. There is great concern in my community, and I am a registered Republican, I will say that. There's great concern in my community about the connections with the Russian government and our government. We are not troublemakers. We are concerned citizens, and it is very disturbing. We are beginning to feel very unsafe with this coming on and the things that are coming to light, that there have been people that now it is not fake news. They did lie. They were not honest. And I guess as our representative, what are you able to do to share the concerns of your people, your constituents that respect you, think a lot of you, but we're very concerned. So thank you for taking it.
And I've been concerned about the Russian influence, particularly in Ukraine, the eastern Ukraine, certainly Crimea. Many of you don't know, I am a member of the Helsinki Commission, and I was an election monitor in the Ukraine in May of 2014 and October of 2014. The forced nationalization that was being carried out by the Russians at the time, I thought was abhorrent, and I wondered why there was not more resistance from our State Department on those efforts. So in October rather of this year, when all the stories, and Vice President Biden, as you may recall, was on Meet the Press one Sunday morning and talked about the influence of the Russians on the election, I asked for a briefing. and was denied. After the election, both parties, it was a bipartisan briefing that was carried out in the classified part of the Capitol where we go for these types of activities. I thought I would, if there's information to share, I thought I would get it that day. It all turned into a hair-pulling contest between the former head of the Democratic National Committee and the director of the FBI. So there was no useful information transmitted at that time. Since then, I've had a briefing by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. I have another briefing scheduled for Monday of next week. Yes, I do take this seriously as well, and I try to stay on top of it, but I was concerned about it in the previous administration as well. This is not...
Is coming out, and we're hearing now that there was some dishonesty.
And that information should be evaluated. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to shorten my answers a little bit so we get to more people. Please go ahead.
Being here. My name is Faria and I'm from Frisco. I'm a proud Muslim American. Needless to say, my community has been under attack by this administration from day one. I hope you have noticed how marginalized this administration has marginalized every minority group in this country. We are a nation of immigrants. Our diversity is our strength, it is not our weakness. This right here is what makes America great. The Women's March, the protests across the airports, the other protests are representative of what the American values are. We are out here for those values. We're not being paid. The person who is behind all this fear-mongering and hate is Steve Bannon. My question is, are you going to stand up to this white nationalist from being on the National Security Council?
As you know, the president is entitled to have the advisors. The president is entitled to have the advisors that he wishes. It is not a decision that is made by the United States Congress. I could not decide the advisors in the previous administration. The president has sole discretion of deciding who his advisors are. It's not my job to pick those people. Is that better? It's not my job to pick those people. I didn't like some of the advisors in the previous administration, but you deal with what you got.
Is it in your morals, is it in your values to support a white nationalist, whether it's
No.
Is your job or not?
No. Okay, we back on? I'm not moving away from you. They said if I'm standing too close, then it interferes with the sound level, so I have to stand back here. I apologize for moving away.
Okay. Congressman Burgess, my name is Dee Fox, and I'm from Montana, Texas. And my name is Dee Fox. I'm from Montana, Texas. And, you know, we started out this meeting with very patriotic, as we should, and we had a red-rousing prayer. And my concern is this, is that our Congress, the last poll I looked at, 92% of Congress at least identify as being Christians. But when I think about the Affordable Care Act, and let me be clear on this, I pay my taxes on time. I have always had health care. As far as I know, my parents have all gone on to glory, but as an adult, I've always had health care. But as a Christian, the Word of God is very clear that we do not leave the 99 to go get the one. And if any in the Affordable Care Act saved one life, we should be very thankful. And for a Congress, when I hear things like repeal and replace, I'm pretty good, especially now since I'm over 65. I get all kinds of things like, do you need a hearing aid? I say, I know I'm over 65, but I don't need a hearing aid. And when I hear repeal and replace, and I've also been blessed that when I buy a house, I call my insurance company and I say, okay, I'm no longer going to have this house, I'm going to have this one. There is no delay in my insurance. It's immediate. So I'm having a little problem with the words like, and I call it political jiu-jitsu, words like access. Everybody has access to health care, but can you afford it? And that is the issue. So I want to make sure that and I'm sure that as a Christian, that we want to make sure that we don't leave people on the side of the road. And whatever because now I don't know if Rand Paul, who is a Republican, he can't find the bill, so we don't, so for some reason we're not being, even Rand Paul, a Republican, and ran for president, can't read the bill. But anyway.
I'll help him.
Would you please help him? And the rest of us. But as a Christian, if you leave someone on the side of the road, then that's not working as a Christian. Saying you're a Christian and walking that walk are two different things. And sometimes, and from the Congress that should be mostly 92% Christian, it shouldn't really be like this. So that's my concern. And the other thing is, the greatest legal document is our Constitution, which we always cite. Now, when that Constitution was written, people of my descent were not considered a whole person. The Constitution was written, women couldn't vote. We didn't repeal it and replace it, we made it better. And it's really sad when something like healthcare has caused so much pain, so much conflict, and it's really sad. And I would hope that my congressman would lead the way in making sure that no one is left on the side of the road, and that whatever we have now is better, and that it happens simultaneously. You can't say that it's a health care bill when people are on the side. So what I'd like to hear from you is that if you are determined, which it sounds like you're determined to repeal it, are you going to lead the way to make sure that, just like when you buy a house or a new car, when you get a new car and a new house, that, because I always have, and I always drive with insurance, by the way, and I have been hit by a motorist who didn't have it, that it goes together, and that no one is left on the side of the road, not one person. Thank you.
So you may have read the news stories, how there was a gentleman in the Rayburn House office building who was found by another member of Congress, unconscious, hit his head, bleeding all over the place. I was one of the two people who helped revive that individual, and best I know, he is still with us. So, first to answer your question is, I will not leave someone on the side of the road. The other part of your observation, and again, I need to keep my answers short because we've got a lot of people to get through. You said you were on Medicare, is that correct? And I just want to point something out to you. On Medicare, you sign up for Part B either 3 months before or 3 months after your 65th birthday. So there is a requirement that you sign up, or you will pay an additional premium. So you did the right thing. You signed up in the allotted time period. I think it is okay to have those brackets around the sign-up date. Yes, you sign up, or if you want to sign up later, that's your choice, but you may pay a little bit more. I know you're okay. I can feel it. Yes.
Hi, my name's Kelly Barr. I'm from Denton, Texas. My zip code, hey Denton. My zip code is 76201. I've had the good fortune of going to your office a couple of times now and meeting with your very patient staff. So I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you for holding this town hall earlier than you told us originally that you would. And also thank you for having it be over an hour. That's great. So I wanted to say that I've been paying attention to some of your votes this past week, particularly that you voted against 2 efforts to solicit documents about President Trump's conflicts of interest. So one of those resolutions would have mandated the release of President Trump's tax returns, which a majority of Americans, an overwhelming majority of Americans support. And which at various points during the campaign he actually promised to do. And the other resolution would have directed the Attorney General to provide a number of different types of documents to member of Congress concerning different types of potential conflicts of interest that President Trump or his affiliates might have with Russian officials. So my question is, why do you think it's in our best interest and in the best interest of citizens of this country to not know that information through our members of Congress?
Every person who files to run for federal office is required to provide the financial disclosures, everyone from the president down to your humble representative.
And he did that, and we know he did that, but we also know that there's information that doesn't tell us that the tax returns will.
That is what is required by law. If Congress wants to change the law going forward, then we should do that. He has fully complied with the law. I will tell you, I was audited one time. It's no fun. The president is under an audit right now. Advice of his tax attorneys is to not release that information. But I want you to stop and think about it for a minute. The United States Congress, if they coerce the president into releasing that, they can do the same thing to any one of you. Any one of you. The president has complied with the same standards that everyone else who serves in the House and the Senate.
Congressman Burgess, you have to understand that
I can't hear when you're yelling.
That we as private citizens do not present a national security issue if we have conflicts of interest with foreign governments.
Which is precisely why the financial disclosure forms are required and filled out. This is something that was begun in the reforms after the Watergate issue back when I was very, very young, and it has continued to this day. If the Congress wants different disclosure, then they need to pass a law.
So you are not worried. So then you are not worried that President Trump's conflicts of interest potentially present a national security concern?
Filed the required disclosure forms.
Thank you, Congressman.
Hello, sir. My name is Max, and I am also from Denton. I would like to know, sir, I keep hearing that there is no money for affordable care. There is no money for Social Security. There is no money for Medicare. There is no money for a federal minimum wage raise. Sir, my tax dollars pay for you and every member of Congress to have the best health insurance on this planet. Sir, pay so that you are never going to go on Social Security because you have an independent retirement fund that you draw on. Yes, sir, they do. I read the legislature. My tax dollars ensure you never go on Medicare, which is why it is broken. My tax dollars paid your salary when you walked out on our government, not once, not twice, but several times during the Obama administration. If I don't go to work, I don't get paid. To take 20 million Americans and lock them in a burning building. What will we call you? We called Hitler a monster for doing it to 6 million Jews. These are not poor and unworking people. These are not people on welfare. These are my family, my co-workers, my friends, my parents who are looking at retirement with no money, sir. I'm an honest citizen. I am living under the laws of this country. And I want to know, sir, if my tax dollars can pay for nuclear weapons and guns to send our citizens to war in other countries. Sir, why is our EPA gagged when they are threatening to dump oil into drinking water, sir? We are running out of water. Fracking is causing
Can I begin to address some of
No,
the
sir,
things?
you may not. I am not finished yet, sir. Fracking has caused a massive increase in seismic activity in Oklahoma to the point that we watched every bird in the state flee, and our EPA is not allowed to speak because of
I'm sorry, I can't hear. Please proceed.
Our EPA is not allowed to speak out against what happened in Oklahoma just a few days ago when every bird in the state fled due to seismic activity because of fracking, and our EPA is gagged by the administration. Our government protections are being eroded by the administration. Our tax dollars are paying to stab us in the back while you ransack our wallets for everything we have. Sir, what are you going to do to protect us, not your wallet?
Well, you made a number of assertions that I do feel like I need to address. First off, on the issue of the congressional carve-out from the Affordable Care Act, I thought that was wrong. So members of Congress now have available to them a special deal if they go into the DC shop, the DC exchange, where they get a subsidy that is paid by the federal government. The argument was this is employer-sponsored health insurance. I said my folks at home would never understand if I did something like that. So I didn't. I signed up at healthcare.gov just like everyone else who was in the individual market. I spent hours on the phone trying to get through to someone who knew what they were talking about. I worried that I wouldn't get insurance on January 1st, 2014 When I did get it, it was the most expensive insurance I had ever had, and it had a deductible, the likes of which I had never seen. But nevertheless, that's what the Congress told you that you had under the Affordable Care Act. That's what I had. I didn't have a subsidy. I did an unsubsidized bronze plan in the healthcare exchange like anybody else. I bought on price. What's the cheapest I can get away with? That's what I bought. People said, is your doctor on your plan? I said, I don't know. It's a $6,000 deductible. I'm not going. As far as Social Security is the primary vehicle for my retirement. I have a paid up 65 life policy through Northwestern Mutual that I bought when I was a physician and invested in heavily, and that plus Social Security is what I'm looking to for my retirement. And then there were a number of other allegations. You know, I'll just tell you, I go to work every day with the best interests of the 26th district. I mean, that's what's foremost in my mind. I've lived here for 66 years. Proceed.
Hi, my name is Kate Beeman, and I'm a resident of Texas. Just because it's been an issue, I brought my Denton library card, my driver's license, my ID. Just want to make sure that you know that I am a constituent. So this whole campaign, a lot of people have been saying that Donald Trump was elected because he's going to bring jobs back. I just wanted to let you know that I lost my job last Friday because of Donald Trump's executive order on refugees and immigrants. And I, along with 8 other people in my office, am now without a job. And I just want to tell you that I blame you. I blame you. I blame you for putting this presidential campaign, for putting him in office. This isn't as if we had someone like John Kasich or Ted Cruz. You put and you supported Putin's puppet for president. And now I'm looking for another job. And I applied for AmeriCorps because I want to help people. And it turns out that he's looking to cut AmeriCorps as well. So great, I'm really, really excited. But I also wanted to just bring this up. President Trump called the press the enemy of the American people. I want to know, do you believe that the press is the enemy of the American people? Not just, I don't want you to just dance around the question. I want you to say yes or no, that media is the enemy of the American people. Thank you.
Well, with the possible exception of the Dallas Morning News, I don't think the press is the enemy of the people. I gave them the best seats in the House so they could be here today. But I will tell you, there are times where I think the responsibility of the media has been abrogated, and there were plenty of times in the 14 years that I've been in office, I've wondered why things were not more fairly and accurately reported. So the fact that there is attention drawn on that now, I say good on it. And you know what? Having friends and family in journalism and in the media, I think they welcome that too. They want to be seen as the fair arbiter. They are the requirement in a free society, but they do need to fairly and accurately report the facts. Again, I gave them front row seats here in the House. I don't think Fox News is here. I wish they were, but I don't think they are. Proceed, please.
Good morning, Dr. Burgess. I am going to address you as a doctor first. I'm Jennifer Kaiser. I live in Roanoke, Texas, 76262. I have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a neurodegenerative disease that is incurable. I work my butt off to not let this disease progress. I exercise like a crazy person. I'm vegan. I have chemo every 4 weeks that costs $12,000 a month. I am an analyst. I am well compensated. I have insurance through my employer. I work very hard for this disease to not end me. I want to be a good mom to my 2 kids and a good wife to my husband, okay? Okay.
Good for you.
I would like to address you as my congressman now, okay? I am not someone that insurance companies can profit off of. I have lost the game, okay? My health costs are $180,000 per year. If you knew me in my daily life, you would think that I would be the last person to burden an insurance company, but that's not the case. So whenever I hear people using profit margins as justification for why I don't have access to care in 2 years or 5 years, I feel rage, okay? I have done everything in my power to not be a burden on our society. I went to school, I have a great job, I am a productive member of society, I'm a triathlete and I have freaking multiple sclerosis, okay? Like I am doing everything I can, okay? So, when you talk about repealing the Affordable Care Act, you're talking to people like me, people with chronic illness who have lost the game. This is a game of probability and economics and profitability, and we should not be letting insurance companies keep people like me from living well lives, whole lives, where I get to be present in my children's lives. So you can repeal the ACA over my dead and or crippled body. Yes or no question. Yes or no. It's super simple. I know that you say that probably certain things won't be addressed in the reconciliation and that we probably won't lose pre-existing condition protections and the caps on annual and lifetime protection. Okay, probably. So I probably won't be cyclically bankrupted by my healthcare costs, and I probably won't end up in a wheelchair. I need you to tell me right now, will you fight to protect the annual and lifetime cap ban? Because I need you, Michael Burgess, to think about me when you vote. Think of my face, think of my 2 daughters, think of my husband. Protect me. It's yes or no.
What is the question again?
Will you protect the bans on annual and lifetime coverage? Remember, I'm not on Medicaid. I have a great job. I have employer insurance, and it used to be a $100,000 per year annual limit and a $1 million lifetime limit. I have a $180,000 per year medical cost, $80,000 a year. I don't have that lying around, and I know you probably don't have it lying around either. Most people do not. Will you protect the bans on annual and lifetime caps on coverage? It doesn't just affect the unemployed and the impoverished.
And the short answer is yes. There is a longer answer, and I would like to see us do better.
Okay.
I would like to see us do better on a lot of fronts. And as you may know, I was last Congress the chairman of the Multiple Sclerosis Caucus. So every year I do the Ambassadors Ball up in Washington, D.C., where they do their major fundraiser for research. And the passage of the Cures Act in December of this year, that not just provided additional dollars for research, provided additional dollars so the FDA could perhaps do a better job with what they've been tasked to do, but also provide pathways to get things through the bureaucracy faster so that we don't spend 14 years and $14 billion developing every new product. I think those are important goals to bear in mind. There are flexibility issues with insurance within states, and state innovation grants is something that I support. And there are a number of states, even though so-called risk pools under the Affordable Care Act were disbanded, there are innovative things that states are doing. I read about one of them from Maine just 2 days ago. They're in a patient pool that they do. People don't even know that they've been put into a risk pool because it's simply, you just sign up for insurance and it happens. And the insurance company participates in the cost of that. Yes, ratepayers do pay a $4 per member per month surcharge on their insurance policies, but it seems to be well accepted in the state of Maine, and I'm going to encourage our folks in Austin to look at that as well.
I hope you will remember my story going forward.
Thank you.
Dr. Burgess, just because of the configuration, it's difficult for individuals who have access needs to get down here. We had an extra microphone up at the top. Melanie has an individual up there.
Okay, all right.
Waving, and she is going to take the next question.
All right.
Hello. Thank you. For all those that retweeted my tweet to get me a microphone, I really appreciate it because we can't get down there with the stairs. So thank you. I'd just like to say that I am a supporter of public school education. But I am also not against school choice. If those schools, private and religious and any other school that decides to take federal funds through a tax credit or a voucher adheres to federal guidelines for the independent or Individuals with Disability Education Act, like my daughter, will you support that any school taking $1 federal adhere to government federal guidelines that supports choice for all or choice for none?
I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing. Just the question part of your...
The question is if you are a proponent of school choice, are you willing to stand up and say that every school that takes $1 federal has to adhere to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act in providing resources and support, and although it may cost those schools more to adhere to it, that's the give and take from taking federal dollars?
Well, that certainly has been what I have heard from the within the homeschool community. They're concerned about taking federal dollars. They tell me that they're actually not interested in a voucher because they don't want the government telling them what to do. Okay, good on them. But yes, to the extent that the federal government is providing resources, there are guidelines that are going to have to be followed. That was true under No Child Left Behind. That was true under the Every Student Succeeds Act. It's going to be true going forward.
You will not repeal those federal guidelines, and you will vote for all those schools to have to follow those federal guidelines.
Well, as a condition of taking,
it's a yes or a no.
Well, the downside of taking federal dollars is they tell you what to do, right? So those schools that don't want,
they can't take federal dollars, but if you vote to take away those guidelines, then that doesn't make them have to pay for that. And I want to make sure that every child has a choice. If you're going to give children a choice, it should not be the healthier and the wealthier.
I don't think we disagree on that.
Dr. Burgess, we have 11 minutes until 10:30 when we were scheduled to end.
Let's keep going.
We still have 74 people in line, so.
Line up.
Also, one quick note, for any of you that are standing along the back, we do have 10 empty seats up there in the top corner if you would like to sit up there. So, making you aware. Next question.
Thank you, Dr. Burgess, for putting this on behalf of all my brothers and sisters in the indivisible groups. My name is Kelly Cummins. I'm a fairly new Texan. I moved down here from Minnesota, somewhat like you. But I did get to Texas as fast as I could. So, and as you can see by all the people here, this country is becoming more and more divided. So my question for you is, what I've seen is you've said so many times today, the GOP's done this, we've done this, the former administration's done this. It's that same rhetoric that I've seen split this country apart. And GOP and Democrat both at blame for it. You know, we go at each other. We got media that's sensationalizing both sides. And so my question for you is, when I see the GOP holding meetings for healthcare, not inviting Democrats in, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis to listen to both sides, bring in your Democratic brothers and sisters in Congress, get them to the table so we can actually come together as a country?
It happens every day of the week. These guys aren't going to report it because it's not interesting. So you aren't going to see it. But it happens I'll just tell you, it happens every day of the week. The discussion that we had with HR 2, where I think the lady who was asking the question and I were talking past each other, HR 2, major reform in the Medicare system, reform the formula under which doctors are paid, something I worked for 13 years to get done. In 2009, when the Democrats were in charge, and they brought a bill that I thought was a very bad bill, but they brought it to the floor of the House to do the same thing. I didn't agree with the policy, but I agreed with the principle. I was the only Republican that voted for it that day. Took a lot of criticism for doing that. Long before I entered public office, George Will had the observation, I think it was in the presidential election of 2000, that the country is evenly divided, but it's not sharply divided. Somehow over the last 8 years, it became pretty sharply divided. I would actually go back to the Bush administration. It began. Our friends in the media are not blameless in this, but every single day of the week, I mean, I am a subcommittee chairman. I was a subcommittee chairman last Congress. We dealt with driverless cars, okay? Pretty non-controversial issue. Every bill that was marked up in the committee, I went to the Democrats and said, let us hear your thoughts. If there was a way to incorporate what they wanted into the base bill so it didn't require an amendment, we tried to do that. We tried to accommodate them. The bill that repealed the sustainable growth rate formula, Democrats were in the room from the get-go. They were nervous. They were scared of us and what we were going to do. And I made the pledge, let's leave our weapons at the door. If there's a particular policy that is just so riven to party ideology that it's going to kill the bill, let's not do that right now. We'll put it in a box that's too hard and come back to it later. And as a consequence, we did pass that bill. It was March of 2015, 392 votes in the House. You don't think that was bipartisan? That was bipartisan. 92 votes in the Senate. I actually went over and watched them that night because I didn't trust them not to screw it up. 92 votes in the Senate. Yes, these things are possible. The Cures bill in December, big vote in the House, big vote in the Senate.
So are you doing that with the ACA currently? The ACA repeal and replace?
Yes.
How many Democratic brothers and sisters do you have on board?
There really has not been any enthusiasm on the Democratic side of the dais in the committee. I'm just telling you, I'm telling you the truth. We worked together on the Cures bill. We worked together on the Food and Drug Administration reauthorization bill. We worked together on the SGR repeal bill. If there is a willingness to work together, you bet, we can do that. And there will be an opportunity. I mean, when the bill is marked up, there will be an opportunity for every Democratic amendment to be heard. Absolutely. When the ACA passed, and this is important for you to know this, when the ACA passed, I took 18 amendments to the Rules Committee in March of 2010, things that I thought would measurably improve the bill. And I spent hours there at the Rules Committee going through these amendments. How many were made in order? Actually 0. And that was the same thing over and over and over again with every Republican member. When President Obama was elected, I reached out to his transition team. I said, I didn't give up a 25-year medical career to sit on the sidelines while you guys fiddle with health care. Talk to me. And did they? No, is the answer. And look, it could have put me in a tight spot. I'll just tell you, I don't know what I would have done if they'd said, yeah, well, we know you want to repeal this formula in Medicare that's driving your doctors crazy, but we got to have your help on the public option. I don't know what I would have done, quite honestly, but they never even tried. They never even tried.
I see that, and I appreciate you recognizing the history of that. But let's learn from our mistakes.
Dude, it happened. The SGR repeal bill, they were at the table the entire time.
And a good leader right now would bring other people, opposing sides, in on that. And that's my challenge to you. And I would say, bring those other voices in today, and not wait until the House floor. Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Go ahead. Thank you for having this town hall.
Sure,
my name is Janet Laminack. I'm from Denton, 76207. I was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer 2 years ago, and I know that you know that that's pretty rare for someone my age, and I know you also know there's a really high rate of recurrence for that disease. Also, during that, I found out that I was BRCA1 positive, a genetic mutation, so I have between a 50 and an 87% likelihood of developing breast cancer before I'm 70. Also, many other members of my family have also tested positive now with the BRCA1 gene. So I'm very concerned about my family having access to affordable health insurance. Can you guarantee that if the ACA is replaced, that I and people like me will not be turned down for insurance because of a pre-existing condition?
Well, again, it's not part of the discussion right now. It is not. I do feel, and you may recall several years ago, the Congress passed the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act to protect people just as yourself, so that genetic information could not be used against someone in either a coverage determination or employment. And I do feel very strongly about this because I want more of us to have more of our genetic information. I think the Food and Drug Administration was wrong a couple of years ago when they put the brakes on 23andMe and said you can't provide this information to people about not the breast and ovarian cancer, but upon other illnesses where there may be a genetic predisposition. I think people ought to know, forewarned is forearmed. So I am absolutely for that, nor do I think people should be discriminated against because they took the trouble to find out.
Okay, and pre-existing conditions?
Again, going through the discussion, pre-existing conditions is not going to be included in any discussion that we have.
Why not?
Well, you know, I can't guarantee the future, but right now, the people that are talking about the pre-existing conditions are going to go away in the bill that will be before the committee next week. No, it doesn't.
Hello, Dr. Burgess. I'm Kathy Hartman. I live in Frisco, 75034. I'm not paid to be here. I'm a retired RN, so yeah, I could use the money, but...
Well, if you were, then you should hold out for health benefits. Please proceed. I'm just making trying to bring some levity into it.
I appreciate that. I support women's reproductive rights. I don't think as a nation we are going to solve our health care issues until we go to a single payer system. However, right now, I'm a little more concerned that President Trump has on many occasions voiced support or admiration for Vladimir Putin. In an interview with Bill O'Reilly of Fox News, Trump even defended the Putin regime's killing of journalists and dissidents by saying, "There are a lot of killers. You think our country is so innocent?" There are reports outlining financial ties between Trump and Russian oligarchs with links to Putin. So my question, Dr. Burgess, which you've already touched on, do you support the release of President Trump's tax returns? You said no. And would you support an independent investigation into Russians' involvement with the Trump administration and our elections?
The independent investigation is already occurring.
We won, get over it? I'm not going to get over it and give up my country to the Russians.
The independent investigation is already underway. The career prosecutors in the Department of Justice are conducting that. And then you have a bipartisan committee, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The Senate has a counterpart. Well, there are classified issues that they're going to be discussing. I want them to have the ability to move with facility through both classified and unclassified information.
And do you think getting Trump's tax returns and looking into his financial ties with Russian oligarchs should be a big part of that?
The president has complied with all of the financial
I don't care what he's complied with. I'm hoping that maybe this is something that you can't talk about, and maybe you don't know because it's probably being done by the intelligence community, but the intelligence community. However, if they don't look at his ties and how Herbert Ross is tied to it, how perhaps Jeff Sessions is tied to it, Steve Bannon, Steve Miller, Carter Page, yeah, Jeff Sessions. We need to have all this looked at and to have, they've looked at Clinton a lot.
Okay, let's keep the debate on the floor here. I asked for a classified briefing in October. I was denied till the 1st of December. I asked for a classified briefing last week. I received one. I asked for additional information for next week, which is classified. I will receive one. So what I will tell you is I am doing what I need to do to be up to date and up to speed on all of these issues.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
So you are also concerned, is that what I'm hearing? Are you concerned?
I am concerned about the evidence of Russian influence prior to the election having happened.
And now you're okay if it continues?
I was concerned about Russian influence prior to the election, and I continue to pursue those leads. I actually don't think they're going to get involved in the school board elections, but...
Thank you.
My name is Liz Dyer, and my zip code is 76244.
I'm sorry, please proceed.
I'm the mother of a son who's gay, and I am, because of that, and because I've been concerned about his freedom and civil rights and protections, I've worked over the last 2 or 3 years to build a community with other mothers of LGBT children. Being here in this school today makes me think about LGBT youth. I hear a lot of very heartbreaking stories about these kids. They have a lot to carry just being in this minority. It's hard for a young person to have something different to deal with, to be on the edge, to stand out, to not be like most other people. That's a lot just for a young person to deal with. And they need to know that their parents, their teachers, their elected officials are on their side and are going to protect them and take care of them. We've made a lot of progress. There was a study recently that showed that the suicide rate of LGBT youth went down considerably after same-sex marriage was legalized in this country. Because it gives these kids hope that they didn't have before, a hope for their future. And so I'm very, very disappointed and concerned that the present administration has decided to go backwards and to not even try to support a guidance, not even really a law, a guidance to public schools when it comes to protecting trans youth. And I just want to say trans youth are even more vulnerable. Even more vulnerable. They have a bigger burden. So I want to ask you, as one of your constituents, will you stand up and go against whatever flow there is and stand up for this minority? Yes, it's only a few compared to the most of us. Most of us are not LGBT, but these are people who are good. My son he's a taxpayer, he has a job, he's a good citizen, he lives his life in an honorable way. Just last month, I knew of 2 young trans people who killed themselves, and I know of 2 more who are saying they're not sure they want to live. One of them said they would try to wait until their mother died so she wouldn't have to deal with it. These are horrible things for young people to have to think about. Will you stand up and protect these LGBT youth?
No, I do think that protection is important at this level, at the school level. I did think the guidance that came out through Arnie Duncan's Department of Education, I did not agree with that. I think it can be done at the state level, and it should be done at the state level.
Well, I want to say I do disagree with that. I think we need a national continuity for this. We saw what chaos came of it when marriage was left to the states. We need it to be consistent across our country. We don't need a trans child to be able to go to the bathroom of their gender identity in one state and their parents get transferred because of a job to another state and all of a sudden they can't do that. That is not fair to our LGBT youth.
I have a lot of faith in our schools locally, and I thought they were doing an excellent job. I don't think the guidance was necessary or welcome, and I think our schools here continue to do an exemplary job. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Shauna Schlebach, 76244. And I have two fairly quick questions for you. First of all, you were talking earlier about how the media has helped to divide both sides in this country lately. That is mostly because of the 1987 repeal of the Fairness Doctrine. I originally went to journalism school at the University of Missouri to follow in the footsteps of Walter Cronkite and Linda Ellerby and the people that we could respect in the news. When that repeal happened, we got things that separated us. We got both sides. We have the extremes on both sides. Would you support introducing legislation to reintroduce a bill like the Fairness Doctrine? So, it's just a yes or no question.
No.
Why?
You said it was a yes or no question.
It isn't a yes or no question, but...
So I was trying to help you. Look, you can't go back. I mean,
That's not going back. That's just putting in fairness, making sure that the news is balanced and equitable and honest.
Look, I do my best to make certain that when I'm offered the opportunity to go on Fox News, yes, I take it. When I've offered the opportunity to go on MSNBC with no thought for my personal safety, I do the same. Chris Hayes, in fact, took one of our little interludes and used it as a promotional piece and ran it almost all of January. So look, I want the media to do their job. I think it's important. I think it's important for us as discerning consumers to be discerning consumers. I don't know that you're going to ever be able to go back and legislate where things were prior to 1987. I will point out I was not in Congress in 1987.
Okay, he's answered. The other thing I want to say is very quick. Given that the people of Flint are still being told to use bottled water and the dangerous construction of oil pipelines that threaten the safety of the ground and water supplies, millions of Americans are extremely concerned about the Trump administration's systemic dismantling of the EPA. Specifically, will you do to protect these most valuable and necessary resources to ensure that our children and grandchildren can grow and prosper breathing clean air and drinking safe water?
Well, the EPA is not going to go anywhere. You do have state agencies that will continue to have the primary responsibility for ensuring the safety of the air and drinking water under...
Water and air cross state lines. They can't stop it at the boundary. That has to be federal.
The Environmental Protection Agency then is available to come in over and above the state agencies. I don't think that that arrangement is going to change. I am concerned, and I have been concerned for some time, about the large fines levied by the EPA, that actually where the EPA is funding its own activities with its fines. Those fines need to go back to the general revenue, the general treasury, and the EPA needs to receive its fundings through an appropriation. Well, the EPA was responsible for picking the scab off the Gold King mine and certainly disrupted the quality of the drinking water in the Animas River for everyone who's downstream. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been long awaited. I wanted to commend you, first of all. In April of 2016, you co-sponsored H.R. 4956, which is also known as the End Executive Overreach Act. Your website says, and I quote, "This legislation would prohibit the use of federal funds, fees, or resources to implement an executive order." In the first 6 weeks of his presidency, Trump has signed 26 executive orders. These orders will cost millions of dollars to implement. My question to you, will you commit to holding Trump to the same standard that you held President Obama? Yes or no? Yes or no?
All administrations should be held to the same standard.
How does blocking one president's executive power and accepting another's wholeheartedly put country over party? How?
When executive orders are confined to those things where the executive actually has control, executive orders have historically been used in both Republican and Democratic administrations. It was when the executive order was actually used in lieu of the legislative process that became problematic in the last administration.
Okay, so will you commit right now to your constituents? Will you commit to reinstating the same bill that you held the former president to this president? Will you commit right now? How is it that your beliefs have changed? What has happened?
I honestly don't know. Did the bill pass? Probably didn't pass the Senate, did it?
Will you commit to reinstating your co-sponsorship of this bill?
Honestly,
yes or no?
I do not know the legislative history of the last bill.
You co-sponsored it. Will you check it and then commit to doing it again? You're going to submit this bill?
Let me look at where it is. I certainly take your consideration and take your comments quite seriously.
I will be following up.
Hello, my name is Gary Kappelman. I live here in Flower Mound, zip code 75028. On Tuesday, President Trump, discussing his tax plan, described it as a massive tax relief for the middle class. And on Wednesday, Forbes magazine had an article analyzing his tax cuts. And it said they would amount to about $6.2 trillion over the next 10 years. And of that, the richest 1% of this country would receive 47% of those cuts. And if you define the middle class as the wealthiest 20 to 80% of the population, they would get a combined 20% of those cuts. And the percentage of the increase is higher as the income increases. So this is a regressive tax cut, not progressive. The middle class would see a 1 to 2% increase in after-tax income. The top 20% would see a 6.6% increase, and the top 1% would get a 14% increase. And if you say that that's not very good and you support Paul Ryan's plan, it's even more aggressive in this article. The plan says the top 1% would get a 77% of the cuts, and the middle class would get only 2.5% of those cuts. So my first question is, do you support, will you try to make changes to these proposed tax plans to make it more equitable and not only just benefit the richest people?
Yes. But as you know, my central thesis since I ran for Congress the first time was that we need simplification in the tax code. We ought to be able to fill out a postcard to mail our taxes in. We're having to pay all this money. Why does it have to be so darn hard every year? So that is still my primary goal. I want simplification in whatever happens next.
I think it's disingenuous. I think it's disingenuous for the president to call this massive relief for the middle class when it's clearly not.
That's right.
I have another question, a follow-up question. The people that were talking earlier about the Russian influence on President Trump were not talking about Ukraine, okay? They were talking about several people who had discussions with Russian ambassadors and then lied about it. And several times last year, over the course of the campaign, you called for a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton's email thing. Will you call for a special prosecutor to investigate Trump's influence on Russia?
As a practical matter, with Secretary Sessions' recusal of himself, Attorney General Sessions' recusal of himself from this issue, it is in the hands of career prosecutors within the Justice Department.
You specifically called for a special prosecutor to investigate.
The reason I call for a special prosecutor is, you recall, Bill Clinton spent an hour on a plane with Loretta Lynch. That had not just the appearance of impropriety, that was improper.
It's not impropriety when Michael Flynn
Look, you've got
an
independent career people who are doing the investigation.
Special prosecutor.
Do you want it done, or do you want to have a fight about it? It's going to be done.
Hi, my name is Jason Galbraith. I live in Little Elm, Texas, zip code 75068. And I have 3 questions which I'm going to ask quickly.
Good.
And what year did you enter the workforce? Would you say the country was more prosperous back then, that prosperity extended to more corners and more communities in this country? And could that have anything to do with the fact that the top tax rate for people at the top of the income scale, to people like congressmen and executives, was much higher in those days?
Short answer, no. Proceed.
What year?
I had a variety of jobs while I was in college, but my first full-time employment was as an intern at Parkland Hospital in 1977, and for that year's service I received $9,700. Proceed.
My name is Michael Carr. I'm a member of Read Defeat Group. I have a couple of questions and one observation to start out. First of all, thank you for supporting truth in media. I think anybody that tells a lie, whether they're media or others, should be the enemy of any reasonable citizen in the United States. The second thing is the Affordable Care Act is neither affordable nor does it provide care. Since it started at the beginning, the premiums have more than doubled in every state in the union. In fact, in Arizona last year, it doubled in 1 year. Additionally, the insurance company participation on a state-by-state basis has dwindled to just a few. Our choices are no longer there. And as we all know, the Obama lie, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. But you can't even keep your hospital anymore because it's broken. And so my point would be, I'd like to understand what your commitment is to repealing the Affordable Care Act because it is completely broken. There are a couple of segments of it which merit looking at on a go-forward basis, such as pre-existing care, and it's already been straightforward by you addressed today, that you will try and include that in any legislation forward. I'd like to get kind of an update from you on where you think we are in the repeal process as far as a procedural type basis goes. And I'd also like, lastly, to hear your thoughts on immigration. You're a congressman with the state with the largest southern border in the United States. We have a huge illegal alien problem. It's not an illegal immigrant, it's an illegal alien. Okay? That's right. Read the IRS definition of what an immigrant is and what an alien is. Read the IRS definition. Okay? We have legal immigrants and we have illegal aliens. Okay? They're two different people. So I think the United States is one of the most compassionate countries to allow people to come here legally. There's a process here to come here legally. Okay? We should adhere to that process, and I'd like to hear your commitment on enforcing the current laws that are on the books regarding immigration. And last but not least, thank you for your service to our country and for all the time and effort you put in to being the best that you can be.
First, on the Affordable Care Act, we've already addressed that. It will come up under a reconciliation bill, although it hasn't been noticed. I believe it will be next week. And removal of the penalties for the individual and employer mandates will be, in my opinion, a big step toward getting things right again as far as health care is concerned. The pre-existing condition, the kids on their parents' insurance, the lifetime limits are not part of the discussion because they cannot be under reconciliation. They were not in 2015. They will not be this time. As far as immigration is concerned, and I've been straightforward about this through every election cycle that I have been in, I do believe we ought to enforce existing law. You're right, the United States is compassionate. We take in 1.1 million people every year legally, more so than any other country, in fact as many as every other country on the face of the earth combined. And I think we have an obligation to the people who are citizens to, well, let's put it this way. Does the United States as a sovereign nation have the right to define and defend its border? I say yes.
One follow-up on the Affordable Care Act. The people who really benefited from this are the hospitals because it's capped their losses at whatever the deductible is for the particular person that's covered. Currently, it's a joke that says it's an Affordable Care Act because the policies that are provided for the low-income people have deductibles of $10,000. They can't afford health care, they certainly can't afford a $10,000 deductible. So when you look at that, really, the hospital lobbying group was the one that benefited. I know you know many of those people because they call on you regularly. What will you look for in the future to level the playing field so that doctors aren't painted with the tar brush for being bad people and hospitals don't benefit from the Affordable Care Act?
Well, I do want to mention of the 18 amendments that I introduced before the Affordable Care Act passed. One of them was to take the word affordable out of the title. Because I knew back then there's no way in the world that this was going to be affordable. As you're correct in some of the assertions, yes, hospitals with the removal of both putting more people on the rolls of the insured, in theory, hospitals were going to do better. They will tell you that has not actually turned out to be the case, and that is why the part of the Affordable Care Act that kicks in, remember, parts of it are still being implemented, and the part that's going to be implemented this fall that reduces the disproportionate share funds to hospitals is going to be particularly hard for them. As far as how do you deal with the public perception of health care, separating doctors from hospitals, You know, it's a hard one. We're all basically in the same business. Doctors are independent contractors, or used to be independent contractors for the most part. The consolidation that has occurred in the healthcare industry, largely because of the strains put on it by the Affordable Care Act, I don't think have been helpful. My contract was always with my patient, not with the hospital, not with the government. I wish it could remain that way.
I just think it's easier to put a BMW in a big house with a doctor than it is with a hospital executive. I know, for instance, a person that lives near me, he's a hospital president. He made over $1.6 million last year, and he's not even a doctor.
So noted.
Thank you for your honesty and your candor and for having us.
Thank you.
Dr. Burgess.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for your service. My name is Dr. Jerry Burkett. I'm a constituent living in zip code 76244. I'm not paid to be here, but I am an educational leadership professor at the University of North Texas at Dallas. And so my concern today is on education, so I want to change that conversation if we could. My specific concern is House Resolution 610. It's the so-called school choices and education bill. And aside from being a clear voucher bill, which research, the body of literature says, confirms time and time again that it does not increase student achievement, it completely repeals the Elementary and Secondary Schools Act of 1965, which is the most significant piece of education legislation in the history of public schools. What this does is provides Title I, Title II, and Title III funding for schools of low socioeconomic students. So in your district, you have 68,000 students living in low-income means. Will you commit today to protect those Title I, Title II, and Title III funds instead of pushing them over to school vouchers? And will you commit to saying no to a voucher bill, which the Texas House of Representatives in Austin has already said they're not interested?
Yeah, the bill in Austin, obviously, I don't have much familiarity with. On the, the direct answer to your question is I'm always cognizant and protective of things back home. That's part of my job. I don't know that I am familiar enough with all of the things that you cite, so I'm going to have to study that. And if you would like to leave contact information, I'll be happy to get back with you on that.
Well, thank you, because the complete repeal of the Elementary and Secondary Schools Act would hurt every school nationwide. That's 10 to 15% of funding. In our public schools, which are already deeply underfunded, Texas is 45th in school funding. So I thank you for your support on that.
As a graduate of the University of Texas at Dallas, I appreciate your service to the institution there as well. If I can just say this, and it is a little bit unrelated to the line of questioning that you brought forward. Yeah, we're concerned right now with the Affordable Care Act and that stuff that's happening right here and now. Concerned with what happens in tax policy going forward. There was a suspension of the statutory debt limit of the United States of America. There was an agreement between Nancy Pelosi and John Boehner. He left as Speaker, Harry Reid over in the Senate. And this is going to hit sometime late April, early May. And there will be another debt limit discussion in this country, much the same as there was in July and August of 2011, and you remember how difficult that was. Any federal program going forward, I mean, there is going to be an accounting that is necessary, and a decision that will have to be made over dollars, and that is, no, I'm sorry, that has included the military, and if you recall, the military was hit with discretionary cuts in 2010 and 2011, and then the sequester in 2013. So it is going to be a big deal. You're talking about educating kids. You're talking about the citizens of our country who are going to carry us into the future. We do need to be careful that the amount of debt we saddle with them is not something that they can't sustain.
It won't matter if they're stupid!
I'll just leave you with that thought, sir.
Congressman, we're over 30 minutes past what we'd originally indicated. We have to vacate the space. Apparently they use this for purposes other than just town halls. So,
I thought they built it just for us.
We have time for a couple more questions.
I do want to say that I'm really grateful that Final Man Marcus was able to provide this for us. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Good morning. I am Phoebe Collins. I'm a relatively new resident of Texas. When you shook my hand this morning, I decided that must be you. I appreciate your coming here. I appreciate the enthusiasm of the crowd. The people that who I've spoken to have indicated to me that people in this area, as well as the area that I came from, have deep distress. I believe that's why you see the crowds here today that you see. I believe one of the reasons for that distress is that number 45 speaks out of both sides of his mouth. He did do the most effective job I have seen the other night in saying the words I wanted to hear, and I think it was an effort to calm the seas. And as you can see, the seas are not calm. And the reason they're not is because we've heard both sides of nearly every issue from this individual. I also want you to know that I lived through the era of hiding under my desk in fear of a bomb. We are now friends with Russia. No one understands why. We are now protecting our president from answering why we should not be afraid of this affiliation. I also am concerned about the fact that the party who represents you has historically considered themselves and mouthed their Christianity to the world. I am a Christian. I am also a Democrat. I resent any implication that if you're a Democrat, you cannot be Christian. The issues that you hear from each of us, the issues that you're hearing from each of us, are issues that deal with humanity, issues that deal with people lying on the sidewalk because they can't afford health care. The only answer to health care is the same answer that every other country in the world provides. We are protecting insurance companies. We raise rates on our insurance, if we have them, are because the insurance companies want to make more profit. We are here to represent the little people in your country. We want you to represent our needs, not the needs of the corporate, not the needs of number 45, not the needs of either Republican Party, but the needs of every single American, whether they be gay, women, men, black, Muslim, Jew, we all count. And we want you to show that you know that. Will you keep every American in your mind on every decision that you make?
I always have and I always will.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Sims, zip code 76182. I'm a hardworking small business owner with decent income. My wife also works. By all accounts, I should exemplify the American dream, but last year my son had an emergency health situation which required 10 days of inpatient care at hospital, followed by 2 weeks of outpatient care. We had the absolute best healthcare plan that was offered in the entire marketplace with the highest premiums and the lowest deductibles. I chose this plan trying to be responsible because I knew I wouldn't be able to afford to pay the high deductibles on a less expensive plan. Even with the absolute best coverage available, I still had to get a second job 6 months ago to help pay off the medical bills that we incurred just over that 3-week period. I've had family coverage insurance for 20 years. My premiums have gone up by double digits, not just the last 8 or 6 years, every single year since I got it. These runaway costs cannot be explained away as a symptom of Obamacare. This has been happening for decades. Healthcare as a free market has failed due to massive, unethical profit-taking by doctors, facilities, drug companies, equipment providers, and most of all, insurance. And it's all in collusion with Congress. Our government has allowed big business and the top 10% to run away with all the cash scot-free, while the middle-class people like me are left holding an empty bag after having just received a virtual diagnosis of cancer. This administration's loud, boastful claims about magically fixing everything and removing the restrictions from business have not inspired confidence that anything helpful will be done to help the millions of people just like me. We as a people are on life support, and the only way things will start to get better is by getting rid of the legalized bribery, collusion, and corruption that is known in Washington as lobbying and fundraising. So I have 2 questions. They're very specific. Will you commit to having 0 meetings with lobbyists or special interests while you're in Washington and seek only to meet with your fellow lawmakers to do your job and meet with your own constituents just like us? And if not, how can you claim to be working in our best interest? That's number 1. Number 2, as a doctor who has committed to do no harm, what specific non-magical thinking ideas, such as health insurance across state lines, will you introduce to the upcoming healthcare reform conversation that will claw back costs, cap them, and bring real, meaningful change to allow the middle class to start to be able to recover from the cancer that is inflicted on us for the past 20 years?
So the first issue, that part of the question that you asked, I do have we are under a major Food and Drug Administration reauthorization bill. We had our first hearing last Thursday. It has to be done by July, or the Food and Drug Administration will have to start furloughing people. So this is important work and it needs to be done. But I have met with, yes, people in the industry, but yes, people with rare diseases, yes, people who do research, yes, people who administer care, yes, people who run hospitals, because they all have an interest in this being done correctly, and that the Food and Drug Administration will continue to be able to function and do its job. So the part of your question where you said, I shouldn't meet with anyone that has any interest in this, I think that would be counterproductive, so that answer is
How
no.
about people who know things that are specific to that industry but don't give you money?
I mean, There is no requirement for, I meet with people who ask to have meetings. I've met with many of the
I know there's not a requirement, that's why you're able to do it. I'm asking you to voluntarily do the right thing and don't meet with people that have, which you will be voting on their product in your legislation.
Look, I do the right thing every day. What was the second question?
That's a non-answer. What specific ideas are you going to bring to the healthcare reform conversation that's about to take place that will help the middle class? That's it.
The primary metric, the primary measure of success of anything that happens going forward in healthcare, whether it's maintaining the Affordable Care Act, doing something different, the primary metric that people will apply is what happens to my premium, what happens to my coverage.
No, it's what people die. It's much more. It's deductibles.
And that is going to be one of the central themes. I do believe if you allow, states are different, and if you allow states to innovate the way they want to innovate, I do think that you can achieve a significant amount. And again, I referenced the Health Affairs article about the pools in Maine that have been very, very successful, bringing down premiums, increasing coverage, increasing patient satisfaction. Why wouldn't you be for that?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't live in Maine, but I do know that when legislators say that it's a matter of state choice, that just means that they don't think that every American should have the same type of coverage. But I don't live in Maine, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you, and best to you and your son too.
Good luck. He won't help.
Congressman, I think we're down to the last couple of questions.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Cheryl. I live in Oak Point.
Cheryl,
thank you for being here this morning to meet with constituents. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming
And
out.
thank you for serving our country. A few weeks ago, a group called the Climate Leadership Council, led by conservative thinkers and leaders like James Baker and Henry Paulson, put forward a document called the Conservative Case for Carbon Dividends. In it, they call for a tax to be levied on carbon dioxide emissions. This money would not be used to grow the government. Instead, it would be returned to every American household in the form of a dividend check. Their purpose is to reduce the threat of climate change. I was wondering if you had heard of this proposal, what your opinion is, and when you are planning to join the Climate Caucus in Congress, which has an equal number of Republicans and Democrats.
I have heard of the proposal. I have not had a chance to evaluate it, as you may have read in the papers. I've been busy on the health subcommittee with other things. Our committee in 2009 did hear the arguments on what was then known as Waxman-Markey. It was a cap and trade bill. I saw a number of problems that occurred, or that I thought were brought forward by that bill that would be ill-advised, and although the bill did pass the House of Representatives in June of 2009, the Senate never took it up that year, and you'll recall that year that there were 60 Democratic senators, so they could have passed the bill had they wanted to. I will tell you, since that time, everything that has happened largely at the level of the agency. There has not been new legislation that has really received any sort of critical mass. I was aware that Secretary Baker and some others met with people on Capitol Hill, but I really haven't had a chance to evaluate that.
Thank you. This is actually not a cap and trade bill, though. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Congressman. My name is Zach Huara. I'm a constituent out of Keller, Texas, 76244, and a senior at the University of Oklahoma. So if you're hiring, let me know. But my question is, so in June of 2015, Donald Trump kicked off his presidential campaign by accusing Mexicans of being racist and murderers and bringing in crime and drugs. He's proposed to build a wall, and the estimates right now look at about $35 to $40 billion. So are you at all concerned with how the proposed Mexican border wall and the associated Mexican tariff would affect the Texan economy, jobs and housing markets, or industry growth?
I certainly know that we do not have operational control of the border in Texas, and particularly that sector that's referred to as the lower Rio Grande Valley sector. That has been a concern of mine for some time, even going back into the Bush administration. There are serious problems that occur on a daily basis for citizens in that area. I am in favor of doing whatever is necessary to do to have operational control of that part of the border. As I've told the earlier questioner, I do believe that the United States has a fundamental right, a sovereign right, to define and defend its borders.
I'm sorry, but that doesn't answer my question. If you look at every single political analyst that I've talked to, they have said that this tariff, the 20% tariff of which is about to be proposed, would be detrimental to the Texan and American economy. I mean, for example, you look at avocados, they cost $5 right now, we charge that 20%, they're just gonna go, hey, now they're $6. So it's gonna cost more for any goods and services that come out of Mexico. And Mexico is one of the largest trading partners in the state of Texas. So by allowing this tariff to happen, we would be causing such a detrimental effect to the Texan economy. People are gonna be losing their jobs, their houses, they're not being able to afford anything. So are you concerned to ensure that Texans will not be economically impacted by this tariff?
I think there is the border adjustability tax that is being talked about. It's not being talked about as the funding for the wall.
Well, no, that's coming from the taxpayers.
Right, but the border adjustability is part of tax reform in general. And while I'm not really central to that debate because it's not in my committee, it's something I have been following because it obviously does create a lot of concern, both pro and con, in businesses in Texas, so I am aware of that, but I don't think that is the primary funding mechanism for, again, what is going to be done on the border.
All right, thank you for the non-answer. You have a great day.
Dr. Burgess, I've got it at 11:20 for the 10:30 ending time that we had. I need to get you out of here. We also need to get the building closed up for LISD. Okay. So with that will be the last question.
All right, last question. Make it good.
Yes, so Dr. Burgess, we met as we walked in here.
Yes, sir.
And so I live in Frisco Lakes Retirement Community. I'm a retired IBM technologist, market strategist, futures and consumer advocate, and founder of a website called Modern Health Talk, where I have been writing about health policy for over 5 years in future healthcare and that sort of thing. And I look forward to working with you on resolving what I see as a cancer in our healthcare system. And so far, Congress has worked only, whether it's mostly Obamacare, but worked only on how do we pay for it? And that's shifting money from one class of society to another. And what I'm really looking for you from, you probably don't have time to explain your positions on it. That's what I hope to work with you on, is how do we dramatically improve the delivery of care through technology and other means, and how do we, like Benjamin Franklin said, like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. How do we prevent the need for health care? Because in the U.S., we pay more than twice as much as almost every other industrialized nation, but we still live sicker and die younger, according to the World Health Organization. And there is a lot of room, with $3.4 trillion a year, there's a lot of room to cut expenses in half, saving over $1.5 trillion a year, if it were not for the special interest lobbying. I I would like to help you craft the story that you can use to be able to stand up to those special interest lobbying and colleagues within Congress to help them understand the business and economic and social benefits of curing our healthcare cancer. Thank you.
You're right. We probably don't have time to get into all of the issues, but let me just touch on a couple. 1996, with the passage of the Kennedy-Kassebaum Act that allowed a demonstration project with health savings accounts, I was one of the first ones to sign up for that. And over the next 20 years, I actually witnessed the power of health savings accounts, and I do believe that that could be part of our future going forward, particularly if you start at a younger age. There is the ability to put a significant number of dollars into those plans. It is a constant struggle. It is a constant struggle with the Congressional Budget Office on the pricing or scoring of things at the federal level. Any change that you make right now, the budget's always done under a 10-year window. So any change that you make right now always just comes as a cost. There is no benefit. The benefit, as you know, is in the next decade, or maybe even the next decade. And there is no mechanism within the Congressional Budget Office to actually address this problem. One of the other questioners asked if I was working with Democrats on something. In fact, I am on this very issue. Diane DeGette, a representative from Colorado, who's on the committee with me, on the subcommittee with me. This is something that we've worked on for a number of years. It's difficult reforming the way the Congressional Budget Office actually looks at healthcare expenditures, but you're correct. If you're always just looking at what are you spending this month and never what may be affected in the out years, you'll never get there. And then the other thing is, last term I was the chairman of the subcommittee on commerce, manufacturing, and trade, and we had a hearing one day on the medical apps, if you will, the things that you can hold in your hand. I can take my EKG off my cell phone, and if anybody cared as to whether or not my heart was still beating, I could email it to them and they could look at it and render an opinion or a diagnosis. I do think things are going to change on the technology front much faster than anything is going to change on the policy front. It is always that way, and it should be that way. I referenced the Cures Bill, which was a bipartisan effort. Took three Congresses to get passed. It almost died at the end of the last Congress, but due to some determination by a lot of folks, it actually got through. And I'll just share this with you. One of the most stunning moments during the inauguration for me was when Jimmy Carter walked down to his seat on the front row. Jimmy Carter, in July of 2015, had gone public with the information that he had melanoma that was metastatic to his liver and his brain. That's July of 2015. I thought the next thing we heard out of Jimmy Carter was going to be his obituary, because that's a pretty serious diagnosis. He put himself into a clinical trial. He received a medication, a new immunotherapy. He walked into the inauguration, and he walked in and sat down the front row. An incredible success story. Thank you, American medicine. Thank you for doing that. So we do have to vacate the room. I do want to thank Marcus High School for allowing us to do the meeting here. I will just say I don't have a date for you, but there will be others. So watch this space, and we will do this again as soon as you've all recovered from this one. We'll have another one, probably the next one in Tarrant County, and then one in Denton, but I don't have the actual schedule on that yet. Thank you.